Breath of the Wild. What's left to say about this game that hasn't already been said a million times over? I mean, it's been almost 3 years and people still won't shut up about it. This boy literally wrote a review that was 3 hours long. Oh my god. Now, I've been a Zelda fan since I first started playing video games. I have a pretty hazy memory of my childhood overall, but one memory I have is from Christmas when I was like 3 years old, and my Uncle Joey got me my first copy of Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. Now, I wasn't really a gamer at that point, so I didn't really know what to make of it. I was like, oh cool, is it like Mario Kart? And he was like, Chris, just trust me. Ocarina then went on to be probably one of the most important games in my gaming career. I mean, it helped me form a lot of my first opinions on what a video game should be. Since the beginning, Zelda's always been a game about exploration. When I was just a kid, I sure as hell wasn't playing for the story. I was just wandering around, entranced to be playing a 3D video game. By some miracle, I managed to progress to Death Mountain, but every time I booted up the game after that, progressing was no longer my priority. It was just about exploring the environment, talking to the townspeople, listening to that awesome music, and just soaking in the atmosphere. So when Nintendo announced that they were making an open world Zelda game with an emphasis on this sort of exploration, you know your boy was on board.
Yes! Yeah!
At the first Game Awards in 2014, we got our first real look at the gameplay. Miyamoto and Aonuma said, "Hey guys, here's the new Zelda. Yeah, it's revolutionary. It's a pretty big deal."
Yeah, and I won't hit any trees. Real horses don't run into trees very often.
Are you sure this will be released next year?
Yes.
The lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Breath of the Wild would go on to be delayed again and again until a whole console generation later. At the Nintendo Switch event in January 2017, Nintendo finally announced that the game would be releasing cross-platform for both the Wii U and Nintendo Switch on March 3rd, 2017. This decision always felt a little self-defeating to me. I mean, the Wii U was a dead console far before they decided to release Zelda on it. But I think this was more of a decision just to make good on that promise that Zelda Wii U would eventually release on Wii U. But honestly, what kind of self-respecting Zelda fan would play the brand new behemoth, technologically advanced Zelda game on the clunky old Wii U? This kind. Yeah, I was kind of broke in college when the Switch came out, so instead of buying a whole new console, I bought Breath of the Wild on Wii U. And then sold it again 3 months later when I bought a Switch anyway. So after playing and beating the game on both the Wii U and the Switch, what did I think of the game?
The game is fun.
When Aonuma first discussed the design philosophy behind Breath of the Wild, he paid a lot of lip service to this idea that they were trying to challenge typical Zelda conventions. Because obviously, that's how you make stuff good. You subvert expectations. Wanna make a good movie? Well, all you gotta do is just subvert expectations. Wanna make a game that is universally beloved by literally everyone? You already know you gotta subvert those expectations. Look. When you have a formula that's so rock solid, it takes serious balls to just turn your back on that and start fresh. Whenever a studio decides to so drastically change course in a franchise, it usually serves just to piss off the fans. The amazing thing is, Breath of the Wild manages to pull this off. Gone are the predictable boss encounters of Zelda's past. How you choose to go about taking down an enemy is up to you.
You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling.
Gone is the hand-holding and linear story progression. Where you want to go explore is always your choice. The game only gives you the prologue and the finale. The rest of the pages are experiences you curate yourself. They have torn down the walls of traditional constricting Zelda conventions. Cause look, you can literally just climb over those. Steve Jobs once said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." But ironically, it was actually T.S. Eliot who first said that 50 years before, so I mean, that just shows you right there. Now, a lot of people take this mantra to mean, hey, anybody can just copy someone's idea. The only way to make a real impact is to take that idea and run with it in a new, inspired direction. And that's what we got with Breath of the Wild. It's thievery. and it's wonderful. You got the dodging and bullet time mechanic from Bayonetta, the tower checkpoint system from Assassin's Creed. You got the cooking system of Cooking Mama. The shield surfing is an obvious homage to Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I mean, come on, guys. Minecraft, Shadow of the Colossus, Skyrim, ingredients from all these games have been combined and baked into this brand new experience. Its greatest innovation is in its optimization. If I went back in time and a little kid asked, "Hey mister, what are video games like in the future?" I'd hand him a copy of Breath of the Wild and say, "Here kid, this pretty much sums it all up." Now this isn't to say that Breath of the Wild is entirely unoriginal, not at all. This game brings a lot of unique ideas to the table. One of these features I'd like to highlight is the authentic freedom that it gives the players. A lot of games have freedom. Skyrim has freedom. Spider-Man has freedom. Cyberpunk has freedom. The difference is, in those games, the developers are trying to tell a cohesive story from beginning to end. But that can't really happen organically in an open-world game. The end result is always the same. The game tells you you have freedom, but unless you follow the very specific path that the developers lay out for you, the story can't progress. A cohesive story in a game is fundamentally at odds with the open world format. Now, Nintendo realized this issue and just threw the idea of traditional narrative out the window. Breath of the Wild does have story elements. At the start of the adventure, you're given some vague idea of this great calamity that supposedly happened 100 years ago. Then, Link can go around the map and uncover these memories that play out. Each one can be looked at as its own little independent piece of the story. You don't need to uncover any of them or even watch them in a certain order. And this was very weird. But instead of focusing on traditional video game narrative, they focused their efforts on creating meaningful experiences within the game's world. When I'm recalling the story of a game like Final Fantasy to my friends, it's like, oh man, remember when the Shinra Corporation blew up that whole city? Man, that was dark. But when I talk about the story of Breath of the Wild, it's like, oh dude, I got caught in a thunderstorm and my sword was about to get struck by lightning and there was these other guys over there, so I literally just put the sword next to them and the lightning struck them instead. These little organic moments that occur constantly in Breath of the Wild are forever etched in my memory. Instead of having a story where you're guided from one area to the next, Nintendo smartly decided to focus on sprinkling the game's content all over the map, and you can tackle that content in any order you like. There's no right or wrong way to go. Now, is one approach to storytelling more valuable than another? No, I think plenty of games tell a more traditional narrative and are still memorable and appropriate for those kinds of games. I just think the reason that this game made such an impact is because it's the first open world game to really feel open. And that's pretty special. The world of Hyrule in Breath of the Wild is often overlooked. A lot of open world games just can't justify their own scope. There's a huge disconnect between the player and the game world. The worlds are filled with mindless NPCs, lifeless architecture. I mean, they're all just aesthetic. But that's what makes Hyrule so impressive by comparison. Every tree, every blade of grass, every stone seems to be there on purpose. And that's because they are. The notion of hiding 900 Korok seeds all over the world means that the player is constantly rewarded for exploring, experimenting, and engaging with the environment around them. But this simple game of hide and seek isn't the only thing that takes this game world to that next level. In the Game Developers Conference of 2017, the dev team was out there popping champagne and basically making their victory lap as the rest of the industry bowed down in utter disbelief at just how well Nintendo managed to stick the landing with this thing. This was a wonderful presentation and a valuable look into the process of the dev team. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend having a look. In this presentation, they talk about how lots of games have a physics engine, but rarely do games have a chemistry engine. But Chris, I hear you say, chemistry? This sounds too dorky. To which I say, does this look dorky to you? The chemistry engine is a fundamental system of cause and effect between elements and materials in the game world. Fire is hot, ice is cold. This stuff sounds rudimentary, but it manifests as such a seamless, fluid system where everything makes logical sense. The engine has made possible these insane scenarios that truly empower the player to take ownership of the game space around them. In past Zelda games, the player has a slew of random items that serve very specific purposes. There's the hookshot, there's the bombs, there's the little bug from Skyward Sword. This game doesn't concern itself with these. In Breath of the Wild, Link's arsenal is greatly taken from the game world around him. Rocks, trees, water, wind, fire, gravity, all these elements can be taken advantage of, and the player can bend these elements to their own will in unprecedented and creative ways. Breath of the Wild is not a perfect game. There's some issues in difficulty balance. The music, while unique, isn't as classic or memorable as Zelda's past. The dungeons lack the aesthetic and visual theming that fans have come to appreciate over the years. The grand finale of the game leaves much to be desired in terms of a satisfying ending. I've heard a lot of players take issue with the weapon durability. Also, quick one, there's no head strap on the Toy-Con VR set, so the only way to play Breath of the Wild in VR is on your bed like, wow, I'm gaming! Whenever someone takes such a huge leap forward, there's going to be some missteps. But to nitpick or just dwell on these issues is, in my opinion, doing a disservice to the game, which is something truly great. This doesn't just take the franchise in a bold new direction, this sets the standard for open world game design as a whole. With fearless innovation, a player-centric design philosophy, and a game world that truly feels alive, Breath of the Wild provides an adventure that comes off as a uniquely personal experience. The hundreds of hours I dumped into this game were unforgettable, and I can't wait to see what the team does with the next one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Really hope you enjoyed it. I'm enjoying putting them together, man. This is something new for me, but I'm really having a lot of fun. If you enjoyed the video, if you'd like to see more from me, please like and comment and subscribe, all that stuff down below. Those are really great, easy ways for you guys to help out the channel and help make this something I can do more regularly. It's something I'm really passionate about. So thank you all very much. See you in the next one.